Despite a 0-0 tie at half-time, the Breakers couldn't hold off from Melbourne's attack in the second. This spectacular goal from Keelik breaking their defence and opening the scoreboard for the Knights. And although the Breakers had some promising efforts in attack, they were unable to capitalise against the team placed last on the ladder. A second goal from Keelik taking the Knights further in front. The Breakers' fate was sealed when some handy footwork yielded another goal, this time to Savinsky. And back in town now, the Breakers soaked away their loss at the Forum as they got straight back into training. Their next match is a home game against Adelaide Force this Friday. Adam Harper, NBN News.
Up-and-coming golfers from across Australia and the world will take to the Newcastle course over the next few days. Now in its 22nd year, the PGA Futures Championship has produced plenty of success stories, like first-round British Open leader Rod Pampling.
Rod has won in the past, has gone on to be a household name in golf in Australia. So don't be surprised to see some of these names in the next few years out on tour.
Among those seeking success are top trainee professionals like Perth's Richie Smith, previous place-getters Murray Lott and Brian Penman, and internationals such as South African Rory Garton and Canadian Bryn Parry. $40,000 and a berth in a similar tournament in America is up for grabs, but just making the cut for the final 2 rounds on Saturday and Sunday will be challenging enough.
It will be tough. It's a magnificent course. It's rated top 15 in the country, but the prevailing weather conditions with the wind coming off the coast will throw a few hurdles in the way of the players.
The 140-strong field will be reduced to 60 after tomorrow's round. Colin Baldwin, NBN News.
Good in a way and bad in a way because we had a field trip on today and we couldn't go because of the strike, and it was good because we had a day off school and had a good time in Newcastle. So.
"82-year-old Daphne Noonan was asleep at her Gillies Street home at Rutherford near Maitland early this morning when someone broke in through a rear door, smashed her in the face with a blunt object, stomped on her leg and stole her purse. Her son Andrew simply can't understand the cowardly attack.
I was visibly shaken by it because the way that she looked, it was very bruised around the eyes and the nose and around this side of the face, and she had a substantial injury to her leg, which is quite a concern.
Her attacker made off with nothing more than a small amount of cash.
People don't seem to have respect for others anymore, and I think it's important that we respect the older people of the community because they're the ones who have made the community what it is today, all the benefits that we have.
Mrs Noonan may now spend months in hospital recovering from her injuries, and police are asking for help in locating her attacker.
Looking for any information that we can obtain, and of course that information will be dealt with in strictest confidence.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
hope you come back soon. I hope you don't get hurt.
After joining the Breakers as a junior player 4 years ago, Chad Mansley will finally make the big time tonight. The 19-year-old has replaced Robbie Angievski in the senior side to play Adelaide and will no doubt be looking to help lift his team out of a 3-game losing streak. It'll be the beginning of a big weekend of hunter sport. 120 riders from Australia and New Zealand will turn wheels on Muswellbrook Showground tomorrow in the state long track titles. From 500cc's to sidecars, it's sure to be spectacular. Not to be outdone, Newcastle Speedway plays host to a demolition derby tomorrow night, as well as round 2 of the Super Sedan Series. And it will be a big afternoon on Sunday for women's basketball, with the Sydney Flames playing the Dandenong Rangers at the Broadmeadows Stadium.
As well as that, we've got the tournament happening with teams from Maitland, teams from the Central Coast and as far away as Gunnedah and Coffs Harbour, so the response has been outstanding.
A big crowd is expected for the WNBL encounter. Colin Baldwin, NBN News.
"25-year-old Fiona Collins has been on the road since the end of February and has covered over 16,000 kilometres.
Sometimes it's been lonely and boring, but it's been a wonderful experience, obviously, and I've met so many fabulous people and I've seen wonderful places, so it's been great.
Cycling over 100 kilometres each day, the ride was organised to raise money for people in need.
We're raising money to assist needy families in Indonesia and the refugees in East Timor.
And with only one day left until Fiona can hop off the saddle and rest her weary legs, she's looking forward to getting back into everyday life.
Overwhelmingly, the feeling is relief. You know, finally I'll be able to get off this bike, stop cycling and get back to a normal existence.
In her time on the road, Fiona has managed to reach her target of $50,000 and has even developed a passion for cycling, something she says she hadn't done much of before her charity ride.
Perhaps do some social riding, join a club, something like that.
Adam Harper, NBN News. Malibu board riding may be an older style of surfing, but by no means is it out of date.
It's really taken off. You know, last year we had a big turn up. This year even bigger. It's the younger guys are into it, and the older guys are still in it.
Today's event was testimony to that, with more than 100 surfers from across the coast heading to Avoca for the competition. And although the swell may not have delivered the biggest waves, it did attract some of the biggest names in longboard surfing.
We've got the over 50s Australian champion, Danny Bond, the over 40s Australian champion, Ray Smith.
Even though Hawaii is the big surfing drawcard this time of year, the skill level on the coast is good enough to sustain high standard competitions.
We've got such a depth, particularly on the coast, of top longboard riders, that the competition here is still very, very strong.
Adam Harper, NBN News.
Nippers is going from strength to strength. Recently, the Central Coast was overrun with 3,000 budding surf lifesavers, and clubs like Merriweather say there is good reason for more nippers to be joining all the time.
You just got to teach kids to surf safe, and there is lots of drownings every year, and people are responding to that. We think last year was a massive year of tragedies on the beach, and people are responding and doing the right thing.
And it seems that message is being driven home to parents. Not even today's bleak weather could stop them from bringing their children to Merriweather Beach for nippers.
Oh, we had huge growth in enrolments, probably about a 30% increase in enrolments. Participation, even a bad day today, you'll see there's still 20 kids down here for each group.
The growth isn't restricted to the Hunters beaches. Up and down the New South Wales coast, boys and girls as young as 6 are competing on the sand and taking on the waves in increasing numbers as they learn to cope with the surf.
Teaches you about the rips and on the beach just to get stronger and healthier.
And does it make you feel safe in the water?
Yes.
How come?
Because I have people around me. The ordeal left the 30-year-old woman unable to drive. She told police it was about 1 o'clock when she picked up a mail fare at Garden City. Police claim he asked to be dropped off on the Pacific Highway at Bennett's Green, got out of the taxi to find his money, but stole her wallet instead. Police quickly managed to track down a suspect in nearby Willandra Crescent. A 24-year-old man was taken to Charlestown Police Station, where he's been charged with stealing. Meanwhile, 4,000 breath tests in the Hunter this weekend have resulted in 64 people being charged with drink driving offences.
People will see a lot more random breath testing. They'll be pulled over a lot more for random breath testing. But unfortunately, that's a consequence of trying to ensure that people don't drink and drive and obviously injure themselves or injure other people.
Not one to rest on his laurels, Graham Stockley was back in training today under the watchful eye of Belmont Pro and Juniors mentor Paul Robertson. In the PGA Futures Championship though, Stockley needed few words of advice. He set a course record at Newcastle Golf Club on the second day to take the lead and went on to win.
Everything did click pretty well. The short game was really very good the first 2 days, and the last couple of days I just played pretty solid and everything came together nicely.
The victory meant cash and prizes for the trainee pro who turns 22 on Thursday, an entry into a similar tournament held in the US next year.
All my practice is just going to be geared towards going to that event. So yeah, absolutely looking forward to that.
Stockley has been in Belmont Golf Club's junior program for around 10 years, which boasts plenty of success stories like touring professionals Adele Bannerman and Kurt Lind. Paul, for one, has no doubt about the potential of his latest champion.
Well, I think he can go all the way, actually. Next year he's going to go and play in as many of the Pro-Ams around Australia as we can get him to do, and hopefully at the end of next year he'll try and qualify for an Australasian Tour card.
Colin Baldwin, NBN News.
This paddock off Mitchell Avenue at Weston may soon be home to a factory making steel strapping for use packing heavy objects like these pipes. The plant would make 19,000 tonnes of the strapping each year for use in the Australian domestic market.
The feed for the plant is steel coils, and they'll then be split and slit and rolled, painted and waxed, and then repackaged and sent out to customers.
If the development application lodged this week with Cessnock Council is approved, the operation will employ 40 people to run the plant, staff the office and man the warehouse. And Cessnock Council has welcomed the prospect of a boost to the tough local jobs market.
The job scene's pretty tough. What we're finding, there are plenty of employment opportunities in the tourism hospitality industries, but in general industry, it's pretty tough.
Meantime, Woolworths is selling its Green Hills shopping centre at East Maitland, despite gaining approval for an $80 million expansion of the site. The grocery giant hopes someone else will buy the centre and do it up, then lease space back for the supermarket and variety stores. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
It's a deal designed for both on and off the field, with the Knights not only wearing Fila fashions while playing and training, but selling Fila leisure wear in their stores.
We feel very comfortable with the support that we're getting from Fila. It is a larger support than what we had previously received from companies combined in our apparel, so we're very pleased to have them on board.
The players themselves showed off the new clothes today and proved as models they make great footballers. The main strip itself is near identical to the old Canterbury brand one, with fabric the main change, while an alternative strip was also unveiled for colour clashes and possibly night games.
I guess we might get a fair bit of use out of that earlier on in the piece, considering that all games for the first month are going to be played at night.
If uniforms are lucky, then the Knights are onto a good thing. Fila jerseys were also worn by the premiership-winning Melbourne Storm side.
The 22-year-old Ironman has set himself the highest possible goal when he faces the starter's gun this weekend at the opening round of the Uncle Toby Super Series. Josh, who has finished third, fourth and then second last year, is hoping to at long last take out the series this year. His main opposition will be last year's winner Kai Hurst, but he's not writing any of his competitors off just yet.
I think that on their day that they're all as good as each other, so yeah, I think Kai's the main danger in the series.
But aside from the fierce competition, Josh will also have to contend with a new format, which includes racing on consecutive days.
I do base a lot of my training around fitness, and that's what it's going to come down to towards the end of the series. Racing both days is going to be quite hard, and consistency is going to be a big part.
Josh will line up for the first time alongside younger brother and training partner Shane.
Once the starter's gun goes, he's another competitor. I'm out there to beat him, but yeah, everything up until then, I mean, I'll be doing my best to help him out.
Round 1 gets underway at North Cronulla Beach this weekend. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Margaret McNaughton is full of life. She works voluntarily with 88 separate community groups, sits on 27 committees and is patron of 28 organisations. She spent this afternoon entertaining a Christmas gathering of pensioners at the Burwood Bowling Club. Margaret was the centre of attention last night as well when she received the Family Action Centre's award for outstanding contribution to the Australian community. The mother of 4 spends a great deal of time working with children through the John Hunter Children's Hospital, KidSafe and NAPCAN. The Family Action Centre Award is presented just once a year to a person or group anywhere in Australia. This year's choice, a fitting tribute for a person who cares so much for others. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
In the town there is an aluminium smelter, so it seems quite appropriate that this sort of heavy activity would take place there and not on the banks of the Macquarie Rivulet in Shellharbour City.
Since the downfall of the Falcons, there's been an expectation that the Hunter will one day again have its own national basketball team, but perhaps it'll be a female one. The WNBL is looking to expand from 9 teams to around 12 in the next few years, and after Sunday's game, Newcastle is an option.
They were ecstatic about the community response, they were ecstatic about the game and the promotion, and now they're talking to us about the future.
Phil Matthews is now preparing a feasibility study on a Newcastle WNBL side, which involves a business plan on how it would work. Not only are the overheads far lower than in the NBL, but finding players also wouldn't be a problem.
If I announce there's a WNBL team here tomorrow, I'm going to have 10 players and 15 coaches, and they'll all want to play here. It's really about setting up a structure and setting up a plan that is sustainable.
Phil will get back to the WNBL early next week.
These 2 trainees are learning the hospitality ropes, from table setting and food handling techniques to manners and etiquette.
It's one of the things that a lot of people take for granted, the way that you speak, but for what we're trying to achieve here is that at the end of their training or their traineeship, that these particular trainees will be able to work in a variety of environments, so from your club bistro to your 5-star restaurant in the Valley.
Training organisation Northumberland Network has joined hands with Jack's Bistro and Restaurant to provide on-the-job experience.
We've got a huge pool there of people who sometimes just need a holding hand to get started, or some new skills to get started. So we're taking them and giving them all of those skills that we were talking about, and that opens up their opportunities.
According to coordinator Sonia Ware, it's all about boosting local employment as well as providing staff to the nearby winery region. With tourism considered a major growth industry, local cafes and restaurants are crying out for good local staff to meet customer demand. Amanda Bolger, NBN News.